I'm Alex Popple. I'm the 4-H agent here in Breckinridge County, part of UK's College of Ag, Food, and Environment's Cooperative Extension Service. And today we are completing one of the horticulture projects that just might be one of my favorites. It's an herb container garden. And I have several examples of different herbs in front of me. Some are woody, like the rosemary, and then several of them are just herbaceous. But what they all have in common is they have a great aroma. So they smell really well, they're beautiful, and they add a lot of flavor to dishes. So that's why it's one of my favorite things to plant in my own garden at home, and they grow really well in containers. So it's great for an upcycling project. You can plant them in jars, cans, and all sorts of different containers. Today we're going to be using one of our leftover buckets, but they go great in planters as well as traditional clay pots and other planter containers, okay? Before we get started, you'll want to think about what that plant needs. So these plants love sunny, warm conditions, and they also like to be well drained. They don't like to be overwatered, so they're really easy to take care of. You can plant them and leave them alone, and they don't require constant attention. So another reason why I really love working with herbs. So in order to maintain a pot that is well drained, I've gone ahead and used a drill to cut some drainage holes in the bottom of the bucket here. And then as an extra precaution, I'm going to add some gravel at the bottom right above those drainage holes, and that's going to help drain out the water as well. So I'm just going to use my spade here, and I'm going to add a generous layer of gravel into the bottom of my bucket. A little bit more for good luck. All right. Once you have that layer of gravel on the bottom, then you're ready to add your potting mix. So I have some potting mix in a bag over here, and I'm just going to add that probably about halfway up the bucket, and then I'll be able to add my plant and then continue adding the potting mix. And I want to make sure when I place my plant into my container that I fill it up with potting mix up to the bottom pair of leaves. All right, we want to make sure that those roots are nice and covered. We don't want those exposed to the sunlight. So we're going to start adding our potting mix. And I'm going to use my hands. If you wanted to wear gloves, you could. But part of gardening, just like cooking, as you'll hear me say a million times, is the mess. Having fun, make a mess, really get your hands in the dirt. If you find there's any large clumps, you can just break those up with your hand. All right, so I filled it about halfway. And now I'm going to remove, today I'm going to be planting rosemary, so I'm going to remove the rosemary from its pot and transplant it into its new home in the blue bucket for my container garden. So I'm going to very gently just apply a little bit of pressure, loosen it up. If it was root bound, you might even have to cut the container away or something like that. But I'm just going to loosen it very gently. And then I'm going to grab at the very base of the plant because I don't want to damage it. And I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to use my hand to kind of support the plant. And you can see how easily that rosemary came out of its transplant container. And then I'll just set it down in the bucket. Looks like I could have added a little bit more underneath, so I can do that now. Okay. And then we'll just fill in all the way up to here with potting soil. And that will give us at least an inch above the top of the potting soil. You definitely want some space there, at least a half an inch to an inch. And that's so when you're watering, the water will be able to flow downward and won't pour out of your pot. So anytime you're planting a container garden, make sure you build in that little bit of rim, that extra space, about a half an inch to an inch above the plant. So now I'm just going to gently fill in around our rosemary. So rosemary goes great with poultry and other meat. It has kind of a pine or a woody smell, but it's got a great flavor, a little bit of texture, and it's a very beautiful plant, as you can see. So I filled in, you can't see the roots below, so that's good. And I've left at least an inch above all the way around so that when I water, it doesn't pour out of the container. And I'm only putting one plant in this particular container so that it has lots of space. Rosemary will grow fairly quickly and grow out as well, and so you want to give it lots of space to grow. So I'd only put one plant in this particular container, but make sure you pay attention to the plant labels if you buy a transplant and follow the directions on the label so you know how far apart to plant any of your herbs or other container garden species. So today this is our rosemary herb container garden. I challenge you to find your favorite herbs and plant your own garden. You can get super creative and plant a pizza garden with the herbs that you would put in a pizza, or a spaghetti garden and do the same. So have a lot of fun with it. Pick herbs that you love and you'll actually use. And then I hope to see all of your herb container gardens in the 4-H Festival coming up very soon. All right, post your pictures of your herb containers in the comments below, and happy gardening.